Welcome to At the Forefront Fintech Conversations. My name is Eric Soderberg. I'm a managing partner here at Forefront. And today I'm joined by Ben Wren. Welcome, Ben, to the program.
Eric, it's very good to see you.
Yeah, good seeing you. So Ben's on the program today. Very interesting background. Ben formerly was at Barclays, see if I get this right, where he managed quantitative investment strategies. Also spent some time at Brevin Howard Asset Management as the CIO of the Systematic Investment Group. And today, Ben is the founder and CEO of a company called SigTech. And this is a company that builds custom AI solutions for financial institutions. So, a lot to talk about today. But why don't we just start at a really high level? Ben, can you tell us about a little bit about SigTech and what motivated you to start the company?
Um, of course, Eric. So SigTech, SIG in SigTech literally is the name of my team
Okay.
at Brown Howard. So SIG, then essentially SIG Tech. So I spun off my team from Brown Howard to be a fintech. Um, the idea is, we realize more and more portfolio managers are using computer-driven systematic investment process, and it's very, very difficult to build the infrastructure and technology before you can even, working on the strategies themselves. So we wanted to build the state-of-art infrastructure that can be used by all the hedge fund managers and asset managers. So that was the origin. And it was built off what we built at Brevin Howard, and we had the privilege to build it using the best tech at the time, without any constraint imposed by legacy systems. So that's how we started. Um, the reason I did it is because I realized after over a decade in capital market, I realized at heart I'm still a entrepreneur and a computer scientist. That's what I studied, and I mean, it took me took me like 12 years in market to go back to my, I guess, my calling. So I only live and breathe with AI and tech these days,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty happy.
Great. So I did a little homework on you guys. I know you talk a lot about AI agents.
Hmm.
Can you just talk a little bit about what an AI agent is and how that's different than our standard sort of LLMs, the large language models that are out there?
Yeah. So large language models, I suppose a good analogy is the large language model is like the brain. The brain can think, but in reality, to solve real life problems, you won't be able to take actions. And using tools, by the way, one of the biggest difference between humans and other mammals is that we are able to invent and use tools ourselves. And large language models, when we give them tools, they can use it, and that essentially become an agent. And the other thing about an AI agent is it has to be given a very explicit goal, and then a set of
Yeah.
environment and rules. So the large language model is able to explore and essentially autonomously try to find solutions. So it's a bit of a long-winded, but really, we take a large language model as the brain, and then we give it the the goal, the tools, the environment, and that's how we build AI agents.
Okay. And I think your product name is called Magic. Is that correct? And I think that stands for multi-agent. Can you tell me what's a
Yeah,
I think I
yeah,
understand what the agent is, but what's a multi-agent? What's the value in that?
yeah. A multi-agent generative investment copilot. We totally made it up, but it's pretty good. I think pretty catchy. So I think a multi-agent is when we started 18 months ago to design AI agents for capital markets for basically our client base. We made a very early on, made a very I would say um, probably forward-thinking kind of architecture decision is that we envisage that most of the problems um, investors solve are pretty complicated, and it requires not just one agent, but requires a team of agents. So, instead of building something that focuses on one agent, we are actually building something at SigTech to encourage a teams of specialists, a team of AI specialists. So I think today it's becoming um, more widely accepted. But to go from large language model to one agent and then one agent to a team of agents that can collaborate by themselves
Mhm.
is a pretty big jump in terms of complexity. Um, but I think it's going to be the standard, especially for finance.
And you in this may not need to be said, but I believe the focus of your business is at the moment at least in finance and capital markets, correct?
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what are the sort of the most common use cases you are focused on now?
I think some of the most successful use cases include like research, different kinds of
Okay.
market research. Like for the front office, it could be a public market, could be private market. When it's private market, it's probably more about evaluating private companies. It's about deal assessment. It's about due diligence, and then we also help firms to deal with middle and back office operations, when especially compliance related, and also it's just very, like in regulated businesses, there are so much resources dedicated to making sure nothing is, making sure that the documents going out to the door is compliant.
Sure.
Yeah, and a lot of checking, a lot of double checking. There's a lot of calculating the middle back office. I mean, I don't know. I mean, people may be surprised by how many people work on reconciling
Sure.
NAV and trading positions. I mean, it's this kind of repetitive, non-creative work. I think for the first time can be either very automated,
Yeah.
or at least like sped up by like 100 times using the technology. So those are quite a wide range of use cases that we cater to.
I would assume there's some application in the trading area. Is that also an area that you're focused on now, or is that coming later? What's your thinking there?
I think in terms of trading, we the reason we focus on the research is because these days, people receive so much information these days, and they come in different shapes and forms, right? By email, by PDF, by websites. The AI is very good at synthesizing and filtering the content and give you what you want, what you look for. And especially when you have a pretty well written down investment process, actually the agents can be built to be the perfect executor of
Yeah.
your investment process and do it 1,000 times, 24/7, and in different languages as well, right? If you trade the international markets, they can access native language like content in native foreign languages. Um, I it turned out to be one of the most interesting aspects because you know it's one thing to ask someone translate something in Portuguese into English or Japanese into English and then try to understand it. It's a different thing if you can reason and analyze in its Japanese native language. You pick up more information, more subtleties, and
What do
yeah.
so sort of the future of, say, the front office in sort of the capital markets context? Do you think is there a world where it becomes mostly AI tools and far less people, or do you think there'll always be a team of people involved? What are your high-level thoughts on that?
I think that's a great question. I think probably one of the most important question is what AI can do and what AI cannot do, and what's left for us to do. What's left for us to do? I think this is one of the most important questions. I I truly believe that. Okay, before I okay, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
I truly believe that only humans can be creative.
Yeah.
And but depending on the definition of creativity, there's a lot of arguments about it. But let me just give you an unconventional example.
Sure.
I don't know whether people have noticed if you use ChatGPT every day, large language models are really bad at telling a joke. Very,
Okay.
very bad.
Okay.
You can ask it to tell you a joke, it will regurgitate some joke. It's horrible. It's average at best. It's pretty bad. It's not funny. Okay, large language models sufficient to say they don't really have a good sense of humor. And there's a reason for it because I did stand-up comedy as a hobby for a period of time. So as part
Yeah.
of it, I learned what makes a joke funny. What makes a joke funny is that you tell the joke and you essentially set up expectation in the audience brain about something is going to happen. It's like linear. And then you deliver the punchline, which is a big shock to that expectation you set before that. And to reconcile that tension, human laughs. Human laugh because it's a way to reconcile the tension. The tension coming from the big gap in the expectation you set
Uh,
and the punchline. Now, the large language models, because the way it's trained, it generates every single word based on the most likely. It generates word by word, right? It takes a sentence, it tells the joke, it writes a sentence, and then try to predict the most likely word that follows, and then just keep going. So by construction, it can't deliver a surprise. It can only deliver most predictable words one by one. Therefore, they're really bad at telling jokes. Okay, and and so comedians are fine. So comedians are totally fine. Um,
right.
but the reason I want to use this as a good example is that I mean creativity. I think real creativity takes certain leap of faith, certain leap in our thinking. It's not linear. It's not predictable. It could be I mean, people say it's coming from inspiration or, one day you wake up in the shower. I mean, I don't know what it is, but some process,
Yeah.
maybe intrinsic to consciousness. So AI won't be able to do that. So I think front office more and more, front office, frankly, if you manage investment, it's a very creative endeavor. Um, it's one thing you find some strategy and you automate, make it very efficient. But inevitably alpha fades. You have to look for more opportunities. So it's a continual exploration and take a lot of creativity to find trade ideas. I think large language models can be a good executor once you can describe what you are
Mhm.
looking
Right.
for or the framework of thinking. But I don't think they are going to be creative by themselves.
What is artificial general intelligence? Can you
Mm.
talk about that a little bit? Because I think that isn't that the degree at which AI can evolve that it would sort of start to take the place of that sort of creativity?
I I think the first AI I would describe already today as a superhuman generalist.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, why I say that? It's because I'm pretty confident that the large language model today is already top 10 percentile in pretty much every single domain.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, pretty much, I would say so. Top 10 percentile in terms of human performance and knowledge in every single domain. So it's already a superhuman generalist. So, um, but for example, I mean, we have a private benchmark internally. We don't release it. It's a private benchmark. It's like the CFA level one and level two
Sure.
difficulty exams, and we benchmark all the models based on using this. And I can tell you, the large language models for CFA level one is probably basic financial literacy. Um, I would say 6 months ago, it's already top 1 percentile
Oh
performance.
wow.
It gets about 98% questions correct for level one. Level two, far more difficult, but it's already in the top 5 percentile.
Oh wow.
Um, and also it takes the exam is about 8 times faster than humans. I mean, so it's also much faster. So what I'm trying to say is AGI is like, I mean, just because when these large language models are trained, they are trained on everything out there. And that's kind of one of the secret why it's performing so well is because different domains, it turns out training something in philosophy help the performance in math, or training something in math helps the performance in programming. So all these cross-domain benefits are being realized in a large language model. So we are going to see AGI. We're kind of arguably, depending on how you define it, we are pretty much there today, and it's going to get better. The, the problem is, I mean, but in real life, quite often we are not happy with top 10%. To be a portfolio manager, for example, you don't want to be top 10% in terms of financial knowledge. It doesn't cut it.
Yeah, right.
It's probably top 0.1% or
Sure.
top 0.0. So there's a gap of there's a performance gap when we look at each specialist domains. That's why firms like SigTech, we try to bridge that last bit, take from 1% to 0.1%.
Gotcha. So this next question, and this might differ whether we're talking about research or trading or some sort of middle back office functions, regulatory reporting, etc. But do you think that AI agents are still a nice to have, or are these a need to have? Or do you think there'll be a need to have next year, 2 years, 5 years, or what's your take on that? Can
I
you
think
afford to
I
not be using them today?
I mean, if I were younger, if I were 5 years younger, I would say, "Hey, Eric, I mean, everybody must have it."
Right.
But today I would say um, it does give you a very clear competitive edge if
Yeah.
you adopt it today as an early adopter. It's not easy to adopt it
Right.
um, for various reasons, because if you just take something off the shelf and then upload your documents and ask for something out of it, it's almost certainly won't deliver what you expect. Um, because the large language model is so generalist, it takes a
Right.
lot of efforts to customize them, to tune them to the problem you are trying to solve,
Yeah.
delivered in the way that you want. So there's a gap there. But if you can do it well and do it right, it's a huge advantage. We're talking about 100 times faster, 100 times cheaper at the
Sure.
same time, which is ridiculous. Actually think about it. It's really ridiculous. Thing that takes like a week can now be done in 15 minutes. But also it costs 10 times, 1% of the cost.
Sure.
Makes a big difference. But I wouldn't overestimate how quickly financial institutions will adopt it.
Yeah.
Um,
You see any big risks in any use case to a financial institution? I
yes.
can, it's easy for me to imagine what risks might be in a trading context. But these other things you're talking about, automating steps in back office and middle office again, and things like that, and research. You think there's risks there? You hear um, I hear about these hallucinations and how sometimes the LLMs can make up sort of information from time to time. Do you see that as a real risk factor in adoption?
Yeah. Yes. Um, hallucination is definitely one of the, I think before the current, say, GPT-5 model, the hallucination rate is about 5%.
Mhm.
Now people say, oh, that's really bad. I mean, it's 5% is not negligible, but ask people to think about, I mean, hallucination is actually a wrong, it's a wrong word
Yeah,
for the phenomenon. It's more like, I mean, I don't know what, I mean, there's a word for it, but I can't remember it, but it's more like, basically the large language model has nothing to say on the question you ask, but you force it to give you something. So
yeah, right.
almost like in order to please you, it makes something up just to keep the conversation going. Um, 5%. But again, I think I ask people, okay, what's the hallucination rate for humans? It's like
That's a good
it's
point.
it's
Yeah.
like
I think
it's
it
called
varies based on the person.
that's right. It's called,
Yeah.
AKA it's called bullshit. So there's a certain rate. So it's not like we are not living with it. So,
Right.
but with the latest model, it's like 1%. So that's actually really really good. So that's a risk factor. The other one, which is very counterintuitive for actually anyone using large language model, is it's actually not deterministic. The whole thing is inherently statistical. So you can ask the same question and you will get slightly different answers each time. So this is very this compared to conventional software, which is entirely deterministic, largely. So if you run it to do some compliance check, I mean, some occasionally it may miss one or it may catch one. There's some non-deterministic behaviors that you have to put some system around it to supervise.
Yeah.
Um,
Can I another word that I've come across again doing my homework for this interview that I don't fully understand, but can you talk a little bit about agentic capital and how that differs from human capital? What is a world where agentic capital is prevalent look like?
so Agentic capital is, it's like once you have like AI agents working for you and solving problems, it's almost like having AI agents as your employees.
Right.
I think it has having your employees. Um, Actually, one of the process we use to customize AI agents to do exactly the way you want it to do, it's very similar to onboarding a new joiner.
Hmm.
Like Eric, for example, if you hire a new joiner who is super smart, lots of talent, but then you still need to teach him to do things your way, right? Because you
Hmm.
do things certain way, which is not the only way, but you do it in certain ways. So so I think we are coming to a point where um, the way we interact with AI agents is very similar to the way we interact with our fellow employees, especially when everybody is working remote. You
Yeah.
speak to someone on Slack or by text messages anyway. So that's exactly how you interact with large language models. So we say agentic capital is like then you can have this team of AI agents doing things for you. Um, so it's like a play on the word on the phrase human capital.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, how to integrate AI agents into your workforce? How do you manage them? How do you supervise them? How do you monitor their performance?
Mhm.
How do you make them improve? Um, Almost all the analogies in human resource can be translated and be applicable to agents. It may sound a bit sci-fi-ish, but I think it's really happening and it will become a normal, probably across a large number of organizations in the next 18 months.
Yeah. Great. And let's just kind of bring it back to the present state for a moment here. Is there anything you'd like to tell folks about SigTech itself, where the business is at currently? I'm obviously going to point people to your website for some additional information, but anything you want to tell us about the business at this point?
I think what we realized at SigTech is that um, the potential and power of large language models is improving every 6 months, and it's really quite astonishing,
Yeah.
what they can do. However, the applications built around them, especially for specific domains, um, is not delivering what people expect. There's a huge, it's a very rare situation. Um, it's like the value you're getting out of applications built around large language models, the value you get is far below what the models themselves are capable of
No, I agree.
delivering. It's very strange. Um, so what we work on is to try to understand why that's the case and how we can remove those bottlenecks. It has been a pretty fascinating journey for us, and but the gap, um, in some sense, is increasing because the model themselves are getting better, but the
Right.
applications are probably not. So we have this very strange situation. I think it's a very interesting areas of research and engineering. Um, and We are pretty focused on solving this problem. Yeah.
Great, great. Is there anything we didn't touch on today, Ben, that you think I missed that we should have talked about? It's all very fascinating stuff. This is super, super educational and valuable for sure. Anything missing?
I think I would just say that the investment in terms of into the infrastructure for AI, in terms
Oh,
of energy, in terms of data centers and chips,
mm,
I mean, it's astonishing, the amount of hundreds of billions of dollars in the US alone, probably something equivalent in China. Um, Historically, you know, actually, we did some research, and historically, most countries spend about 1% of their GDP on electric grid,
mm,
electricity
sure.
infrastructure over 200 years. We're seeing the same kind of a magnitude of investment into AI. So I think
Wow.
there's some merit in thinking about AI as a source of almost like a utility in the near future.
Oh,
It's like
wow.
when we turn on the switch, electrons flow out of it, and we use it to power, you know, appliances, and we take for granted. But I think we are very close to the point where we turn on the switch, and then these intelligent tokens
Hmm.
generated by AI is coming out of it, and we use it to power all sorts of agents and applications to make our lives better. I think we're pretty much there, getting there.
Wow. Well, that's
Yeah.
that's fascinating. Well, great. Ben, thank you so much for coming on the program today. To those listening, watching, to learn more about SigTech, you can visit their website at sigtech.com. That's sigtech.com. To learn more about Forefront or to see and view other podcasts like this one, visit www.forefrontcoms.com, and that's comms.com. Thanks again, Ben, for coming on.
Thank you, Eric.
Have a great day.